In today's episode, we shall be discussing the biological facts about women when they stop having sex for a period of time. When you stop having sex for a long time, you might wonder what happens to your body, especially your vagina. While it's easy to assume that abstinence could bring significant physical changes, the reality is a little more nuanced. The vagina is a dynamic and resilient part of the body. But like any muscle or system, changes can happen when it's not in regular use. Here's an in-depth look at what happens to your vagina, your body, and your mind when sex becomes infrequent or disappears altogether. One of the most common myths is that if you don't have sex for a while, your vagina will tighten up. While this is not entirely accurate, there is some truth to the idea that the muscles surrounding the vagina may feel tighter. The vaginal muscles are part of your pelvic floor, and like any muscle, they can become tense or less relaxed when they're not regularly engaged. However, it's important to note that the vagina doesn't actually lose its elasticity. It's a highly elastic organ that expands and contracts and is built to accommodate changes, like during childbirth or sex. If you go without sex for a long time, you might notice that the first few sexual encounters after the break feel slightly different. You may perceive more tightness or discomfort, but this is often due to a lack of recent stretching or stimulation of the vaginal tissues. The good news is that your body adjusts quickly. With arousal and regular sexual activity or even non-sexual stimulation, such as using a vibrator, the vaginal muscles relax, and any sensation of tightness usually diminishes. One of the key things that can happen after a long period without sex is a reduction in vaginal lubrication. Regular sexual activity encourages blood flow to the vaginal area, which helps maintain natural lubrication. Without frequent stimulation, some women, particularly as they age or approach menopause, may notice vaginal dryness. This is largely due to declining estrogen levels, which naturally occur as women age. Vaginal dryness, also known as vaginal atrophy, can cause discomfort during sex, itching, or irritation, especially if sexual activity is resumed after a long hiatus. For younger women, lubrication usually returns after arousal and regular stimulation, but for postmenopausal women, the lack of estrogen may make dryness a more persistent issue. In these cases, using lubricants, vaginal moisturizers, or consulting a doctor about hormone replacement therapies can help maintain comfort during sexual activity. Some people worry that their vagina will shrink or lose its natural elasticity without regular sex. However, the vagina is designed to be elastic, and it doesn't close up or shrink just because it's not being used regularly. Even after long periods without sex, the vagina retains its ability to expand and contract during arousal and penetration. While the muscles around the vagina might feel more tense after a long break from sex, they quickly return to their normal state with regular stimulation or exercise. The health of your pelvic floor muscles, which support the vagina and other organs in the lower abdomen, can be affected by the absence of regular sexual activity. Sexual activity, particularly penetrative sex, can naturally engage and strengthen these muscles. Without sex, it's important to keep the pelvic floor muscles strong by doing exercises like Kegels, which involve contracting and relaxing the pelvic floor muscles. These exercises help maintain vaginal tone and can prevent issues like urinary incontinence or prolapse, which become more common with age. For some women, especially those who have given birth or are older, pelvic floor muscles can weaken over time. But regular pelvic exercises or even using pelvic floor trainers can help keep the vagina healthy and toned, even if you're not having regular sex. While the physical effects of not having sex are generally minor, the psychological and emotional effects can be more significant. Sexual activity is often tied to emotional well-being, stress relief, and intimacy. A prolonged absence of sex can affect your mood, confidence, and sense of connection with others. For some people, a lack of sex might lead to decreased libido, The old saying, use it or lose it, applies somewhat to sexual desire. If you're not regularly engaging in sexual activity, your libido might decrease, simply because your mind and body aren't in the habit of getting aroused. Increased frustration or stress. Sexual activity releases endorphins and oxytocin, hormones that promote feelings of happiness and relaxation. Without this regular release, some people might feel more stressed or emotionally disconnected. Feelings of loneliness. For those in relationships, long periods without sex can sometimes lead to feelings of emotional or physical disconnection from their partner. This can lead to loneliness or a feeling of isolation unless other forms of intimacy and communication are maintained. On the flip side, some people may feel relieved or more focused when they're not engaging in sex, particularly if sexual activity has been a source of stress, frustration, or obligation. The psychological impact of not having sex will vary greatly from person to person, depending on how they personally view sex and intimacy. Sex can have a significant influence on hormones like oxytocin, dopamine, and endorphins. These feel-good hormones help regulate mood, reduce stress, and promote feelings of bonding and connection. Over time, a lack of sex might mean fewer releases of these hormones, which can subtly affect your overall emotional state. For some, this could lead to feeling less energized or more stressed, while others might not notice much of a difference at all. Interestingly, for some people, abstaining from sex can actually increase their sexual desire over time. This is because desire is complex and can be influenced by a variety of factors, including psychological anticipation, physical arousal, and emotional needs. If you're still in your reproductive years, a long period without sex won't affect your fertility in the long term. Your ovaries will continue to release eggs until menopause, and your ability to conceive remains unchanged unless you have underlying health issues. However, it's worth noting that fertility naturally declines with age, so while not having sex for a period won't impact your chances of getting pregnant, age itself can influence your fertility over time. One of the upsides to not having sex is a reduced risk of sexually transmitted infections, STIs. Without sexual activity, you won't need to worry about exposure to infections transmitted through sexual contact. However, this doesn't mean you can skip out on routine gynecological checkups, as other health issues like yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, or abnormal pap smears can still arise. For some people, resuming sex after a long break can bring increased sensitivity or even initial discomfort. This happens because the vaginal muscles and tissues may not be used to the stretching and stimulation that come with sexual activity. The first few sexual encounters after abstinence might feel more intense, but over time, the body usually adjusts and any discomfort typically subsides. Using plenty of lubrication can help ease any initial discomfort when you return to sexual activity. Sex is not only physical, but also tied to mental and emotional well-being. Going without sex for a long time may affect your libido in different ways. For some, sexual desire decreases as the mind and body adjust to a lack of sexual stimulation. For others, desire may build up due to anticipation or simply because they miss the experience of intimacy and pleasure. Additionally, sexual confidence can shift during long periods of abstinence. Some people might feel less confident or less in touch with their sexuality, while others might experience a renewed sense of sexual energy when they decide to engage in sex again. One of the most important takeaways is that abstinence from sex, whether by choice or circumstance, doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or your body. Whether you're choosing to abstain from sex or find yourself in a situation where sexual activity is limited, it's important to remember that your vagina and overall sexual health remain adaptable and resilient. The most important factor is how you feel mentally, emotionally, and physically. Taking care of your sexual health involves listening to your body, staying informed, and seeking out pleasure or intimacy in ways that work best for you. In the end, taking a break from sex doesn't have long-lasting negative impacts on your vagina or your body. While there may be changes in lubrication, muscle tension, or sensitivity, these are usually temporary and can be addressed through pelvic exercises, communication with your partner, or medical advice if needed. Your body is built to adapt, and when you're ready to re-engage with your sexual life, your vagina will likely adjust accordingly. So whether you're embracing a period of abstinence or preparing to resume sexual activity, remember that your body is capable of supporting you through the changes.
If you find this topic very interesting and educating, please don't forget to leave us a like, share to others. Be part of this family, where Stoic teachings and wisdom helps us to navigate through tough and challenging moments in our daily routine to achieve a meaningful and purposeful life. Subscribe if you have not done that yet. We will really appreciate it, because it encourages us to do more and better. And to our returning subscribers, we say, God bless you. Till we meet again in our next video, remain stoic, healthy, and meaningful.